We are several days away from Andrew Cuomo losing the New York City mayoral election to that communist from Uganda. So I thought this would be a good time to talk about the real reason that Andrew Cuomo resigned as governor of New York a little more than 4 years ago. It was not the sexual harassment allegations, as everybody thinks. It was his disastrous handling of COVID. Not just the nursing home massacre. Everybody knows about that. Of course, everybody's forgotten about that, apparently. But there's a lot more to it than that. And we're going to get into that. But before we do, I want to give myself a pat on the back because I get my news from all over. But I do a lot of my own research too. I will dig pretty deep on things, including statistics. And that's what I did here. I've known since Andrew Cuomo resigned that it was his handling of COVID, not the sexual harassment allegations. But I haven't heard anybody else say this. Sometimes when I reach my own conclusion, I'll hear like a handful of people saying the same thing. But on this one, I'm not hearing anybody saying what I'm saying. I love this picture, by the way. He's got getting that Q-tip stuck up his nose. This was a funny video when he was getting the COVID test. He like hits on the doctor. He says like this thing, she looks good in this outfit or something like that. So that is kind of funny that he couldn't help himself from hitting on her. So let's take a stroll down memory lane. Summer 2021, and Andrew Cuomo is the COVID hero as far as Democrats are concerned. He's implementing strict lockdowns, other strict COVID measures. He's doing his frequent COVID briefings. He actually ends up getting an Emmy Award for his public service announcements, briefings, whatever you want to call them. He also got a book deal. And the title of the book, in case you forgot, is American Crisis: Leadership Lessons from the COVID-19 Pandemic. He's talking about himself. Leadership lessons? Who writes a book about themselves? And part of the title is leadership lessons. That's like if you were writing a book about like Lincoln or FDR or Reagan, if you're a Republican, then you might have leadership lessons in the title. But this is a book he's writing about himself. There's some other shady stuff going on with the book too. Supposedly they were preparing to write this book like when COVID first broke out. I don't know if that's true or not, but dude's just a dirtbag, basically. So Cuomo is the COVID hero. Who's the COVID villain? Well, of course, it was Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida. Cuomo is saving lives and doing what a leader does. Ron DeSantis is killing his own people. That is literally what people were saying. He's killing his own people by allowing them to live free as Americans. So at this point, Democrats knew about the nursing home massacre, but they didn't care. However, it turns out that the number of deaths was significantly higher. These nursing home deaths, the number was significantly higher. And if I remember correctly, Cuomo had kind of been hiding the numbers, and not just that, but kind of bullying people into keeping their mouths shut about it. But it comes out, and so now people really can't ignore the nursing home deaths, and Cuomo's not looking like the COVID hero so much anymore. It was around this time that I started to look into the numbers as far as COVID deaths. Of course, that's a whole messy thing. You got deaths from COVID, deaths with COVID, but all you can do is just do your best to find some numbers. So I look into death rates. I'm not talking about numbers. State to state numbers are irrelevant if you got a big state and a small state. They were measuring it in deaths per 100,000. So I look into the numbers and I find that there's really not that much of a difference in terms of death rate. That's what we're talking about, death rate, not numbers, but death rates. Between Florida and New York, really not a whole lot of difference. And so basically you got a state, New York, where people are not living free. They're having to follow a lot of rules that maybe don't make a whole lot of sense, whereas Floridians are allowed to live the way Americans normally live, and there's just not a whole lot of difference in death rates between the two states. So it was just a matter of time before it became mainstream news that Cuomo's tyrannical COVID measures were nothing more than that, tyrannical, and people would come to the realization that Cuomo was the COVID villain and DeSantis was, in fact, the COVID hero. And the powers that be could not have that, so what do? We throw another scandal, another controversy into the mix. A bunch of women come forward with sexual harassment allegations. Cuomo gets to step down. supposedly because of that, and he never has to account for his failure in terms of COVID, and Democrats never have to acknowledge that they were wrong all along. And here we are 4 years later, and both of these stories have disappeared. Yeah, he's going to lose, but he hasn't had to take any responsibility for this supposed sexual harassment, and he doesn't have to take any responsibility for the nursing home massacre or for his tyrannical measures, which didn't do anything to save people's lives from COVID. And maybe the most twisted aspect of all of this is, despite how much of a dirtbag Cuomo is, it would probably be better if he were to win the mayoral race. I don't live in New York. If I did, I'd probably be voting for the Libertarian, whoever that is, but I'd also be hoping that Cuomo would win. I guess I kind of am hoping that Cuomo wins. How twisted is that? If you made it this far, then you probably got something out of this video. I sure hope you did. If you want to help me out, go ahead, subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Tell me what you think about all this. At any rate, thanks for watching.